Welcome to episode 22. Are goals essential to winning in life?
What's
question. Are you saying? What are you accusing me of? I don't like the way this conversation is going, to be honest.
Goals are essential where people are purpose-driven in their life. Progress is only doing the goal.
Yeah.
And the power of a goal is in the doing, not in the creating of the goal.
Because essentially my life could be like that. I'm just aimlessly running around, creating a lot of energy and wasting a lot of energy, and having no outcome, no objective, no purpose. Like, when does it end? Hi everybody, welcome to Winning Life TV. I'm Leanne Morgan.
And I'm Gareth Morgan.
And welcome to episode 22. And we're so happy that you've decided to join us today, whether you're up at the crack of dawn as soon as this is released, or whether you are catching up at another point. We're so glad that you have chosen to be here today. And are you okay today, Gareth?
I am tip-top.
Tip-top. Wow, I've not heard that phrase for a while.
I was going back into my subconscious to think of some kind of really old kind of phrase that I've heard and not used for a while. Tip-top condition, Mrs.
Somebody
Morgan.
used to say that, tip-top, on a kids programme when we were younger. Anyway, but yeah, I'm glad you're doing good. I feel a bit nasally. We've been a bit coldy, haven't we?
I think it's the post-COVID lack of immune system. Like we're catching everything that's going.
Or maybe just
and recatching.
No good weather for a very long time.
And that.
Yeah, so I feel like I need to clear my nose. So I'm sorry if you can hear this and I sound a bit nasally. But I am okay. I'm not unwell, just fighting off another virus probably, as we all have been for the last 3 years.
You're a fighter.
I do feel it's because I'm ready to go into a new season.
We are
I am
ready.
So ready. Hands up if you're ready. I can't see you obviously, but hands up if you are ready to enter the new season.
Hands up, legs raised. I'm ready.
At the point of recording of this, we are on the cusp of spring.
Yes.
We're just about to enter spring. Not that you would know from looking out of the window and our weather currently. It's very wintry. However, I am really ready for a new season.
Oh yes.
What's your favourite season?
My favourite season, I think, is around June time. June time in the year, because
kind
it's
of
the
end
longest
of spring,
day.
Beginning of summer.
Yeah, it's the longest daylight.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the right way of saying it? The longest day.
The most amount of daylight in a day.
That's the way to say it.
The
The
sun
most amount
goes
of
down
daylight
a bit
in a
later.
day. Yeah, absolutely. And because I don't like it too hot, but I like it pleasant, and I like it early morning. Kind of
You've
light.
never liked hot weather. You're like a little beetroot in the sun, aren't you? You go bright red.
Yeah, well, I get a suntan with a hairdryer, so.
So yeah, you like it when it's more spring-like.
Yes.
I do too. I love something in every season, though. I think there's
always something to appreciate in each
there
season.
is, like spring. I love it because winter seems to have just gone on forever. So you look forward to that. And there's a smell of spring, isn't there, that I'm waiting for currently? That smell.
There's probably a smell for every season, isn't there? Really,
there probably is.
Yeah. Well, there certainly is living near fields as we do. So
You've
know,
talked about that before, haven't you? The dung.
That's it. The
manure
dung. This is
that
the
we
dung
smell
season.
coming over from the.
It's the dung
fields.
season.
But no, I love the smell of the
Yes.
flowers, and there's that freshness in spring, and then the heat in the summer, and then there's obviously Christmassy things in winter and autumn. I just love every season, but at the end of each season, I'm so ready for the next one.
Anticipating.
Anticipation, definitely. And I think maybe there's something in that for us in our lives, that we naturally are ready for a new season.
I think so. I think we're wired, aren't we, to grow?
Definitely.
And time and seasons are, it's the pathway to growth, isn't it?
Yeah, we say we don't like change because, well, I say I don't really like change. I like things to stay the same. I like to just keep it all the way it is. You're completely different, which is why, of course, we're together. But I think we do need change. We look forward to change. They say change is as good as a rest.
Absolutely. I think we do like the outcomes that change can produce. We just don't like the uncertainty of change.
I think that's what it is, because you don't know quite what's around the corner.
So I think if we don't cope well with high levels of uncertainty, we tend to not be the kind of people that like change.
But I think we do deep down enjoy that change of season, and it's the same in our lives. When something new and different happens, or something, you enter a new season, yes, okay, that might bring challenges, but we kind of enjoy that. So maybe you're going through a change of season in your life right now. Maybe you are experiencing a difficult season or a really exciting season. Just know that something good is happening in every season. There is always something happening, even in the wintertime. So keep going through, and your season is just around the corner.
Absolutely.
So shall we get on with today's question?
Yeah, let's do that.
So episode 22, here we are. Are goals essential? Particularly, are goals essential to winning in life? What a question.
It is a good question, because I think sometimes people immediately will quickly answer that and almost default to yes or no. Yeah. And I think actually, probably, I think I'm fair to say this, we're probably a yes and a no in terms of default on this question.
What are you saying? What are you accusing me of? Not being goals orientated? Are you saying, well, because clearly you're a goal-centered person. Are you saying I'm not? So we just said that we are opposite. Like, I don't like change. You do. Before, on previous podcasts, you said I'm more negative. You're more positive. I don't like the way this conversation's going, to be honest.
But no, if you go back and listen to the other conversations, I mentioned the fact that behind both of those answers, there's something that we both need to be aware of that actually can almost prevent us making progress. So, you can be goal orientated and actually, miss, the next stage of your journey because you're so locked into what you've already preconceived as the way, whereas somebody who isn't will be more open and will be more welcoming to the things that weren't expected.
True.
And so, actually, as with many of these things, there's a tension to be managed, and it takes, and I think that's why we're together, because God in all his wisdom wanted to show how to harness that tension.
I'm going to metaphorically give you a very big gold star. You got out of that one.
I wonder
really
if that was a gold star or if it was a thump.
Well done.
It felt like one of those, like, I'm going to give you a gold star slap.
You got out of that one very well.
No, I wasn't trying to
You recovered yourself. No, there is truth in that. There is truth. There's a tension to manage in every personality or character, whichever is kind of your inclination, whether you feel you're a goal-orientated person or not. There's always something good and bad in both. So, yeah, let's look at this then. So, first of all, if we were to say goals, what are goals particularly? See, because for me, before probably meeting you and our kind of journey together, goals for me were just associated with that dreaded sport, football.
That's probably where it is, actually. Yeah.
That's and obviously I didn't really have anything to do with football, don't really enjoy football growing up, and then I met you and suddenly my life became football crazy, and had a son, and my whole life was even more football crazy, and one of my most hated sounds is the football in the background and the cheering and the commentating. It's like migraine sounds. Anyway, so up until that point, goals really for me were just associated with sport. It's just like, it's a goal. But then obviously our language and the way we talk in coaching and helping other people, it's not about scoring a goal, scoring a point. Goals are something that people aim for, or it's a step to work towards. Yeah. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's a frame of reference for our purpose. So using your analogy of the football pitch or soccer pitch, if you're American, then the whole idea of the frame of the goal, where a team is moving towards in order to score that goal, to put that ball in the back of the net, as it were. That's the purpose.
Right.
The purpose of the game is to score more than the opposition.
Yeah.
And so the goal reflects the purpose for why you're playing the game. And I think let's broaden that to life. Our goals are around our purpose.
Yes.
So I think when you have a very clear purpose, I don't think anybody with a very clear purpose would reject goals outright.
No.
I think how they apply goals can be different, and there are different ways of, breaking goals down and, how-tos, as it were. But really, I think there's a how to with goals, but there's also a why.
Yes.
And so I think the why is quite clear. I think it's about purpose. It's what's your reason? What's your reason for being out there on the football pitch? What's your reason for having 11 people, including yourself, coming together and working together? Well, it's because we have a shared goal. We have a shared purpose.
Yeah.
And so, a community has that. A community, even the word community, it's around a common center, common unity. So we unite around a central purpose, a central goal. So I think the goals are essential where people are purpose driven in their life.
That's a good point, because I think a lot of people, and I myself at points and in the past, have heard the words, let's set a goal, and internally gone, kind of withdrawn from the conversation, or shuddered at the thought, or backed out. So why do you think people have that reaction to setting a goal? Not everyone, but some have that reaction. I would say it might be the majority of people go, oh no, why do you think that is? I have a theory, obviously from my own personal experience, but what would you think that would be?
I think it's that experience of deferred hope. And the Proverbs says, deferred hope makes the heart sick.
Yeah.
So I think whenever you've experienced setting a goal, and when you set a goal, it creates a level of expectation. And any unmet expectation creates disappointment, and disappointment creates a form of emotional sickness.
Yeah.
And so that experience then shapes our perception of either the kind of goal that was set, because it may be that when we say, oh, we're going to set a health goal, then we go, oh. But maybe when we say we're going to set a relationship goal, you're like, oh, okay. So again, I think it depends on the area, but it's usually connected to any unmet expectation or disappointment that we've previously experienced, based upon raising our level of expectation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think there is a point where we don't set goals because we're afraid of what we will miss or not achieve, and then why would we set ourselves up for disappointment or failure? I think as well, there's also, for me, a point where a goal places a demand on you that you need to have and work through, but it's going to require something. And if you're not emotionally, spiritually, physically or mentally ready, then in a way you are setting yourself up for failure. So I think you have to almost I have to take one step backwards before setting the goal and make sure those 4 areas of my life are aligned correctly. That's the spirit, the soul, the mind, and then my body physically. And when they are all in a right place, then I know I'm going to set a goal that isn't going to set me up for failure. Because sometimes I think I've set goals to make myself feel better. Oh, I'm going to achieve this, and this. Great. And then I don't do anything with it. That's outside in goal setting. I'm setting a goal to make myself feel better, rather than actually what do I need to do to push myself on further, and those kinds of things. So I think I've avoided goal setting in the past, or even currently in certain circumstances will go, oh, don't want to do that, because I know it's going to demand something from me, and I know I have to get myself in order.
Yeah, I think there's goals ask a question of us in terms of how much importance do we place upon our feelings and the role of our feelings in our decision making. So, because let's face it, like you said, setting a goal can create a nice feeling immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I feel like I'm making progress.
Yeah, and it's just words on a page very often, or an idea.
Absolutely.
It's not actually formulating anything.
It's a great step. It's better than not formulating anything at all.
Yes, exactly.
But I think it creates almost like virtual progress. So I think everybody loves to start the year with a goal, because it's almost kind of a recognition that maybe last year I didn't make as much progress, or enough progress that I feel I should have made. And so therefore this year I'm going to do something about it. So I'll create the goal, and immediately that creates a sense of progress. But actually progress is only doing the goal.
Yeah.
And the power of a goal is in the doing, not in the creating of the goal. And
That's
I
good.
think it's really important that we understand that our emotions have to play a supporting role, not the leading role
Yeah.
when it comes to goals. So people will give up on setting goals because they don't like how it makes them feel. So we've all been there. I've done it. You set a goal, you don't meet it, and you feel a failure. You feel like you've messed up, or you feel like you're not enough. And so that feeling almost then becomes the thing that dominates us. And rather than attacking that and saying, no, do you know what? I'm not going to live like that. I'm going to keep on going and put my feelings in the rightful place, not in the steering seat of the car, in the back seat of the car. They can support from the back, but they are poor drivers.
Yes. Yeah, true.
And so I think goals are a great way of us understanding where are we at with our feelings, how in control of our emotions and feelings are we.
In every episode of the Winning Life podcast, you will hear Gareth and Leanne talk about the importance of getting a plan for your personal and professional life. That's why they have developed the MVP plan. When you develop your MVP plan, surprising opportunities and uncommon results follow. The MVP plan provides you with a clear structure to begin to see how your goals can turn into reality. Starting out with setting the goals, highlighting milestones, and planning individual tasks, you'll begin to see how the MVP plan is key to experiencing the results you've always wanted to have in order to make an impact in this world. Visit thewinninglife.tv today to get access to your plan and the steps on how to use it.
It's interesting because when I think about, even the analogy of football or sports, which I'm not really into, let's be honest. I've not really got a foggiest.
I tried to get you into football.
You did, didn't you?
I bought you a really nice pair of, I won't say the brand, but football boots. And actually, Leanne was really good. I took her out. I mean, I know how to show a woman a good time. I took her out onto the field. I bought her these football boots. I think I bought you some kit as well.
You did.
And we worked on shooting, and
top.
we did 2 sessions, and she did really, really well. But
it's because I'm not interested doesn't mean I'm not good at it, but
you're just focused.
It wasn't for want of trying. You did try, but anyway, I don't understand it. Don't get it. But going back to the football and sport analogy, if you think about goals, if you were to take the goal away, it would be quite pointless.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel it's pointless anyway, because kicking a bag of wind around the field. However, I appreciate, and I did enjoy like the World Cup. I enjoy the Euros and all that kind of thing. But patriotic support, all of that.
You just use football.
Yeah, for a good party. So if you just take away the goals, there is no point to the game. It is literally just, how many is there? 11 on each side, 22 people kicking a ball around with no aim. And so I can appreciate, even though I don't always find setting goals easy, I could appreciate why we need them, because essentially my life could be like that. I'm just aimlessly running around, creating a lot of energy and wasting a lot of energy, and having no outcome, no objective, no purpose. Like, when does it end?
And it was interesting because early this morning I was catching up on just a score from last night and listening to the manager of the team, because they hadn't won for a while and hadn't scored many goals. And he said that on Monday, we all sat down together and had a really honest conversation, because performances hadn't been at the expected levels. They hadn't been scoring the goals. And just as you were speaking then, I thought, actually, when we don't meet a goal, it forces us to have conversations that otherwise we wouldn't have.
Yeah, true.
So actually, the goal, it's great when you meet it and you win. But as the saying goes, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah.
but you never fail with setting goals. You only fail when you choose not to learn. And so really failure is in our hands. And I think that's again why people don't go for goals, is because they want to be absolutely certain of meeting that goal. And if I can't be certain, then I won't set out on it.
Yeah.
And again, I've suffered from that as a perfectionist. But I've had to start to have a healthier relationship, and it's a constant challenge, I'll be honest, with failure.
Yeah.
And really understanding that failure creates distinctions in our development, distinctions of excellence that I wouldn't have without trying.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying there completely. I think also another problem that people have with goals, particularly if you are a Christian, it doesn't feel very spiritual.
Good point.
So setting a goal
Yeah.
feels quite mechanical,
Yeah.
quite humanistic. You know, people might feel like it's just about me, and it's very businesslike, and it's not very setting goals isn't very spiritual. But I feel like over the last number of years, I've realised that isn't true. In fact, setting goals is exactly what God wants us to do.
100%.
It's actually part of his created design for us to have aims, to have goals, to have dreams, to have visions, to have, steps. The Bible is full of verses that teaches us to make plans, to make steps, to have goals, to move forward. So do you want to kind of explain a little bit about that? Because I know people have said that to me in the past, and I've even thought that in the past, that maybe goals are just not that spiritual. I'm saying in inverted commas because everything we do is spiritual.
100%. Well, you might want to pull up, is it Philippians 3, where Paul talks about striving towards the goal? And because I hadn't put it on my list here, but before we jump there, we're called as Christians to live by faith and not by sight. And it's really important to understand what is faith. Faith here at Hebrews 11 verse 1 is being certain of what you hope for. Certain of what you hope for. And confident in what you cannot see. Okay, so it's being certain of what you hope for and having an assurance about what you cannot see. And that's a goal. I mean, it's a different word, but it's a goal.
The same thing.
But of course, it's talk, and we say, and we've heard, and probably at times thought, goals aren't spiritual, but goals are faith, and faith is spiritual. It's looking at reality through the lens of the spirit, which is unseen, but creates reality. So, when I set that goal, it creates a level of focus. Well, what is it I am hoping for? What is it I'm certain of? And, the Apostle Paul, in his letter to the church at Philippi, do you want to read that? Because I think because I was just, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, is the word goal actually spoken of in the Bible? And at first I thought no, but then I thought, well, hang on a minute, no. He speaks about it.
Absolutely. And he says, not that I've already obtained all of this. And he talks about how he wants to know Christ and the power of his resurrection, and even talks about everything that he once considered his gain that he'd worked out himself. He now considers a loss for the sake of Christ. Everything is nothing in the light of who Jesus is. And then he goes on to say, not that I've already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. In other words, that's grappling with your purpose. When you look at it, that's exactly what he's saying.
100%.
And then, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenwards in Christ Jesus. And I think some people fall into the trap of thinking the goal is just heaven there. I'm just aiming at heaven. And I'm thinking, no, because if you read the whole of Paul's letters and his life, he was not about just getting to heaven. He was saying, when I get to heaven, great, that's fantastic, but that's not what my life is about.
And it's interesting because I even recently, in the past several months, I've reread that time and time again. Because if you notice, Paul is talking about almost a goal that you don't ever reach.
Yes.
So see it this way, that a goal is there to create stretch. And stretch is the tension. We talked about tension. Tension is needed for growth. So in one sense, no, okay, hear me right when I say this, but in one sense, the goal isn't to always arrive at the goal. Now, arriving at the goal is important if it's a step towards something, absolutely. But the most important is the stretch toward. We talk about the MVP plan. You're not going to create a perfect plan. This is why people often don't like the idea of plans, or certainly the idea of plans that are really specific, like so many days, etc. And I get it. I understand why. Because again, it heightens that sense of, well, I'm going to put myself under pressure and I'm going to have that emotional disappointment, etc. But we need to reframe it. It's just simply about putting myself into the position of stretch, because that's where I grow. And when Paul talks about heavenwards, I always used to think it was talking about when we die. And I don't. That's not what he's talking about.
No.
And we often think, Paul's just talking about living a good life and, straining towards that moment when he will leave this earth and he will be in heaven. No, you see, heaven is not. Hear me right when I say this. I've said that a number of times because I fear getting into trouble. But I think heaven is not a destination; it's a reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not a reality that one day we'll experience. In the prayer that Jesus taught, he said, pray this prayer, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So in other words, heaven on earth now, the reality now. And so that, I think the reality of heaven, and for us, that's the winning reality, that experience of joy, of love, of hope and peace. Like, that's winning. That's the emotion that winning creates. And we often think winning is a destination point. So when the whistle's blown and the score is in our favor, then we've won. And of course, that's absolutely right. And it's the same with goals. When I've achieved X, Y, Z, then I've met the goal. But actually, the bigger goal is what is happening in the process. It's actually living in the reality of winning, which we can do at any moment, and goals have a clear part to play in that.
That's good. So maybe somebody's listening in, watching in today and thinking, oh, I've never really set a goal, or I kind of done it, but don't really know what I'm doing. What's someone's first step in setting a goal, do you think?
I think a goal ultimately is what is it you want? So it's asking that question. It's the first step in the MVP journey. So I think, practically, if you want somewhere to go and to watch and to kind of have an exercise to do this, then go and check MVP journey out. But first of all, it's what is it you want and why? Yeah, good. What is it you want and why? And so again, it's really clear. This is what I want. This is why I want it, because it's about desire. Because a goal is focusing our desires on an outcome. And then it's a point of reference from which then I can work backwards to create clear steps. I think you said something very, very key then. You said, what is it that you want? And I think that's probably one of the key reasons people struggle with goals, is they don't really know what they want. And I've been guilty of that in the past. I know what ultimately I want, but I don't really specifically know what I want. And, again, over the years, I've heard people say, oh, it's fine, God will lead me, or I just see what happens. I'm thinking, I don't think that's how God intended us to live our lives, just to see what happens, Ultimately, he's in control. The Bible talks about how, we make a plan, but God ordains the steps. We can't this making goals is not twisting God's arm to making things happen that shouldn't. It's about this process that we're on. But I do think that it's very key to know what do we want? And maybe for people listening today, that's step number one for you, is to sit there and go, well, what do I actually want? And it might not be your ultimate goal, for whatever, 30 years time. It might just be, actually, what do I want to see in this next year? Start with some small things and then think, right, actually, where do I want to be long term? The MVP plan is good at that we look at an ultimate goal, long in the future, but actually it breaks it right down to, well, what do I want to see today? But for some people, it might be like just sitting there and going, well, what do I want? Absolutely. And what don't I want as well? And let me put it really bluntly. it's not an option. Again, for a Christian, for somebody who says, okay, the Bible is my authority by which I live, it's a command.
Yeah.
Because Jesus said, ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. So think about that. There's first of all, there's the asking. So there's the, okay, what is it that I want? And again, notice Jesus doesn't tell us what we need to want, because he's given us seeds of desire that we already carry inside of us.
Yeah.
God put them there. And so, but he says, ask. In other words, you've got the seeds in you, but you've first of all got to become aware of what those seeds are. And then notice, seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. You have to be an active participant in the miracle of what he wants to do in this next season. You can't just wish for it. You have to be active. The power of a goal is in the doing. And the power of faith is in the doing. James talks about a faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So faith is almost like the authority of, okay, if I've been given these desires by God, then there's an authority of, well, they're mine to go after, but then I have to put that authority into action and create power, which is doing. And so again, Jesus said in Matthew 21, truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you can speak to this mountain and tell it, go throw yourself into the sea. And if you believe and you do not doubt, you will receive what you ask for in prayer. In other words, again, it's a command.
Yeah.
So it's not an option. He never says it's kind of like a take it or leave it. And so, wherever we are right now, whether the Bible is our frame of reference or not, the truth is life doesn't work as it should without goals.
And I also think it's important, if you're part of in a marriage or a relationship, if you are in a family, to do them together. You have your individual
100%.
goals. You have your goals, I'll have mine specifically, but then there are things that we do together, because you have to make sure that your goals are not kind of going in that direction.
They have to be aligned.
They have to
behind a common vision.
And if you are married and part of a family, then that's a key kind of clue that you're actually on the right track if your goals are going in the same direction, because it would be awful if suddenly you're making all these goals but they're completely going off into different directions, trajectories. So do that as part of your kind of time together as a couple, as a family. Work those things out, and then it becomes exciting because you can hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
And you can celebrate the journey along the way together.
Absolutely. Without vision, people perish. Without vision, a marriage perishes. Without vision, a family perishes.
Yes.
Again, vision creates that common unity. And if you don't have a strong common unity, you end up in disunity. So I think it's absolutely crucial. So I'm really looking forward to hearing back from our listeners, those that are watching. What are the goals that you're setting? And join us on MVP Mondays and come and be part of that. And, share your goals and be part of a community which will encourage you to set goals. But also, when you may fall short of a goal, to encourage you to learn and to actually enjoy that process.
Absolutely. And I think we're part of a society where people are too ready to pull down and kind of laugh at those who are failing. But in our community, we want to be part of supporting one another, where you can share what you're doing, be accountable, and we are cheering each other on. So thank you for joining us today. We really hope that helped you in looking at goals. And as Gareth said, come and join us on the MVP Mondays. We'll be able to help you with your plan. And thank you for joining us. We will see you again soon.
Take care.
We hope that you enjoyed that episode. And if you enjoyed it, please go and subscribe over on all of our channels on YouTube, Instagram and Facebook, and not forgetting your favourite podcast platform. And if you head over to thewinninglife.tv, you'll be able to find all the resources available to you. Gareth has written several books which will help you on your discovery to building stronger and better lives. Come and join us for the next episode.